Whew, I'm still catching my breath after that Sacramento Kings and Orlando Magic Summer League war. The greatest Summer League game of all time. Many are calling it that, and they might have a point. I don't know what beats it. I'll share with you what it was like to be inside the Thomas and Mack Center here in Las Vegas to experience Paolo Banchero versus Keegan Murray and that wild finish. It's all right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all regular season and all off season. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports producer and reporter for ABC 10 News in Sacramento. But I'm here in Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas, my first time at NBA Summer League. Now, I've covered plenty of Summer Leagues, but I've never actually been to Summer League. And I am here. I am currently in my hotel room at the Excalibur. I'm looking out my window right now, right down into the Strip. I see the Park MGM. New York is right next to me. The T-Mobile Arena, where the Las Vegas Aces, I believe, and the Golden Knights play. I love it here. This is fantastic. I'm so excited to be here, and I was rewarded, as so many of us were rewarded, with a phenomenal first Kings Summer League game. First off, I apologize about the audio. Some of you may know the quality is a little bit different. I had planned on doing this podcast from my hotel room. Actually got a third of the way through recording the podcast from my hotel room when my batteries of my camera died. And if anybody has worked significant or massive camera equipment before, you know that those batteries take forever and a day to charge. So I'm waiting for those batteries to charge. Didn't want to make you wait any longer to get this podcast out. Plus, I'm looking forward to actually experiencing nightlife in Las Vegas for the first time. So very excited about that. But no matter what I go out and experience in Vegas, I'm guaranteeing you it will not top the game that I just watched. My heart rate is still racing. It's been hours since the Kings and Orlando Magic game ended inside Thomas and Mack Center, and I'm still not over it. What a wild game. Just an absolutely wild game. Now, for those of you who say that NBA Summer League doesn't matter, you're kind of right. I mean, it matters to the Sacramento Kings, who are the only two-time NBA Summer League champions, who are, by the way, the reigning, defending Summer League champions from 2021. Of course, this year, now they're actually giving out championship rings. That's bull, you know what. Give that old Kings team rings. Give them rings. Don't just start this year. That's so tragic by the NBA. Further a conspiracy. They want to keep rings off of the fingers of the Sacramento Kings organization. Whatever. Stupid. Dumb, doesn't matter. Kings are going to win Summer League again and are going to get the rings this year, and they'll be the first three-time NBA Summer League champions. But I digress. I know Summer League doesn't really matter. I know the final score, the Orlando Magic beating the Kings 94-92, that doesn't really matter. What matters is certain storylines, individual performances, how Paolo Banchero played, how Keegan Murray played to some extent, how two-way contracts Neemias Queta and Keon Ellis played, and we'll get into all of that. But experiencing a Summer League game in person, I know it's a Saturday, but experiencing a packed lower bowl at the Thomas and Mack Center, and the Cox Pavilion that's attached to the Thomas and Mack Center was also packed. Experiencing the energy in that arena from a compilation of fans who just love basketball. Now, there are Kings fans in the building, there are Orlando Magic fans in the building, but I guarantee you, with how that finish ended, every single person in that arena was on their feet. They were highly, highly excited, and I'll tell you, the majority of them were actually rooting for Keegan Murray and the Sacramento Kings, believe it or not. But for these players, and I'm not talking about the Keegan Murrays, the Paolo Bancheros, the ones who know that they're going to be in the NBA, that they're going to be on the main roster, that they're going to be invited to training camp, and they're just here to kind of showcase themselves and get a little bit of reps heading into their hopefully very exciting NBA careers. For the others, and that even includes the two-way players, guys that are still fighting for their NBA dream. These games matter more than anything else in the world, not just how they play, but think about the environment that they're playing in. Some of these guys, a lot of these guys were the biggest names on their college teams, and they played in front of, I'm sure, jam-packed houses around the country at the NCAA level, and no disrespect to that. It's a completely different ball game to be in an arena that's not only filled with NBA fans, it's filled with NBA media, it's filled with NBA scouts, and legends. Legends as far as the eye can see. Big names. I saw Dikembe Mutombo there. I saw Derek Fisher in the building. And that, I mean, other than legends, I saw like Matt Barnes was in the building. There are executives from every single team in those buildings. I saw Kevin Huerter there for the Kings. I saw Marvin Bagley there watching the Pistons play. So many players. Domantas Sabonis and Davion Mitchell were there watching the Kings. So were Matthew Dellavedova and Quinn Cook, who allegedly, reportedly, are actually having workouts with the Kings while here in Vegas. Maybe one of the two of them could fill a roster spot for the Kings. The Kings are looking for a third point guard. Either of those guys, Quinn Cook has his time with the Warriors, a little more offensive oriented. Matthew Dellavedova, very well known for his defense. I like the idea of it. That'll be a conversation for another time, a different podcast. But for these young players to fight for their dream and play in games that most consider meaningless, yet they're in a building with so many people, the NBA fraternity who comes together, who just loves basketball and comes together for these couple weeks straight of nothing but basketball, that's significant, very significant. So to be able to experience that environment in person was, humbling is not the right word, it was eye-opening for me to see what these young men were experiencing and for me to feel that energy. Now, of course, maybe I'm a little jaded, or maybe I haven't gotten a completely accurate idea of what the Summer League is, because one, this was Saturday, and two, my first game is arguably the greatest Summer League game of all time. Tell me, find another Summer League game that tops that one. Find it. Certainly, I've never seen a better Summer League game, but find it. Find a game in the NBA Summer League that is better than what we saw between the Sacramento Kings and Orlando Magic. I challenge you. I dare you. If nothing else, it'll be a push. They'll be equal. Because that Kings Magic game was nuts. Where do I even start with this game? Where do I even start? I could start with watching Paolo Banchero versus Keegan Murray was a whole hell of a lot of fun, as we expected. Like, one of the first things I noticed, I was there before game shooting warm-ups, and Paolo Banchero was right in front of me. Dude is huge. Huge. Like, and when you see in person, the TV doesn't do it justice. When you see in person how big Paolo Banchero is, when you see Paolo Banchero standing next to Keegan Murray, he doesn't dwarf Keegan Murray. Keegan's a tall guy, a long guy. Paolo's got size and weight on Keegan, and it showed. You can notice it in person. Paolo is a big dude, but he moves really, really well with and without the basketball. It was really fun to see Paolo Banchero play. He finished with 23 points, 15 trips to the free throw line. Holy moly, there were a lot of fouls. But that's, I guess, to be expected in Summer League. Paolo Banchero, 23 points, I think 6 rebounds or something like that. Stat line-wise, I thought, even though maybe the box score at halftime didn't do it justice, Paolo had 11 points. Keegan Murray had like 7, I think. That didn't really do it justice. I thought Paolo almost across the board outplayed Keegan Murray in the first half. And I don't know how much of it is Keegan Murray's fault and how much of it is the Sacramento Kings' fault, because a pretty consistent thing that I've noticed, and I know we've talked about from the California Classic now into Las Vegas Summer League, for some reason, Keegan Murray does not seem like the focal point of an offense, which is weird. He's played 4 Summer League games. He scored 26 points, 24 points, and 20 points in 3 out of the 4 of them. Like, you would think that's a guy that's showcased as the main guy in the offense. And Keegan Murray is, of course, the best player on the Kings Summer League team. But for some reason, I don't know if it's because Keegan is a little too passive or if the Kings just aren't doing a good enough job of getting him involved. Compared to Paolo Banchero, the touches that he was getting in the first half was extremely lopsided. Extremely lopsided. Now, in the second half, the Kings were looking to get Keegan more looks. He got some plays and some sets drawn up for him in the half court, and then Keegan Murray was aggressively going to and asking for the ball, which I needed to see. Needed to see from him. Keegan finished with 20 points, I think 8 rebounds. Really solid game for Keegan. But we don't care about that, right? We don't care about, well, we do. We care about Paolo's numbers. We care about Keegan Murray's numbers, of course. But what happened at the end of this game? Like, the Kings were down by 18 points. Did anybody realize that? Like, Orlando had an 18-point lead on the Sacramento Kings. I was up kind of towards the top of the lower bowl of the Thomas and Mack Center, and that's where I was shooting the majority of the game, getting most of the highlights. About 3.5 quarters into this game, I was like, okay, I'm going down to my seat. I was sitting on the baseline, opposite side of the Kings side of the floor, kind of caddy corner to the Orlando Magic bench. I went back to my seat and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to watch the rest of this game and start editing my package for ABC 10. And suddenly the Kings come roaring back. It's a 6-point game with like a little more than 10 seconds remaining or something like that. Okay, 6-point game, 2-possession game. It is Kings ball. They need a miracle. Inbound, Nehemias Queta, straight on 3, nothing but net. Okay, all right, the Kings got something going here. Now they need to stop. Or they could just take the ball away, steal the ball on the inbound. Ball comes to Keegan Murray. And the shot is ridiculous. The reaction is ridiculous. The fact that he hit that shot right in front of all the Kings executives, Kings owner Vivek Ranadive, Monty McNair, general manager, assistant general manager Wes Wilcox, Vlade Divac, former GM, and of course, Kings legend. Matina was there as well. Oh, I said her name. Who else was there? Mike Brown, Kings head coach. Like right in front of all of them is where Keegan Murray hit that shot. But it's not the shot that I love the most about that moment for Keegan. It's the buildup to it. The fact that he gets possession, he knows that there are at this time like 3 to 4 seconds remaining. He knows he has to get a shot off. He knows it has to be a 3. The amount of composure that Keegan shows in this moment is just incredible. Like dribbling the ball out to that wing 3, and then the pump fake. Watch the playback and watch the pump fake. His pump fake gets Paolo Banchero and another Magic defender, I can't remember who it was, up in the air. They jump past him, and he recognizes, even though there are only seconds remaining, at that point, just over a second remaining, that's enough time for his quick release. He gets the pump fake off. 2 defenders fly by, has a wide open look for 3, splashes it right in front of the Kings executives. That play right there, the composure there from Keegan Murray is what I love so much. How in that moment, a lot of young players, and we wouldn't even blame them, would get the ball, step back, turn around and launch it, not even aware of the clock. Keegan Murray was aware of everything. He was aware where the defenders were. He was aware where the 3-point line was, where out of bounds was, how much time was left. He was aware of all of it. That's NBA instinct that he showed right away. Again, if you want to put an asterisk by everything that Keegan Murray has done in California Classic and Summer League to this point, because it's only the California Classic and Summer League, and because of the competition that he's facing, that's fine. The competition had nothing to do with what Keegan was able to do as an individual in that moment. In that moment, he made a play that I would argue half of the NBA, I would say the majority of NBA veterans who are not superstars, aren't able to handle that moment as well as Keegan Murray did. Because regardless of your competition, that moment was all about Keegan and Keegan alone. And he sunk it. He executed it to perfection. Now, of course, this game goes into overtime, 5 minutes of overtime, not enough to decide a winner. And then we go into Summer League's patented, I guess, sudden death basketball. Next basket wins. Kings lose the jump ball. Paolo Banchero either is stripped or missed the shot. I can't remember. Either way, the Kings get a stop. They go back on the other end. Jordi Fernandez, Kings assistant head coach, or rather associate head coach and head coach of the Summer League, he calls a timeout when Keegan Murray, I think, had possession. He gets booed. Like the entire Thomas and Mack Center. I don't know if it translated over TV for those of you who weren't there. The entire arena starts booing Jordi because they wanted to see Keegan go one-on-one, right? They wanted the excitement of it. They didn't want the pause. But Jordi actually explained why he took the timeout after the game. I asked him about it, and he basically said, look, I realized we didn't have numbers. We didn't have a distinct advantage. I had a timeout, so I wanted to use it to get us a good look. And in the end, he got a good look. Nehemias Queta, a great chance of an alley-oop. He had a couple of alley-oop opportunities in this game. He's had a couple of alley-oop opportunities over the course of Summer League so far in California Classic. He doesn't finish strong enough around the rim. Like Queta, for someone who's that big, should be finishing a lot stronger around the rim than he does. In that moment, it was a Paolo Banchero block. And yes, I'm saying Paolo Banchero block. You might disagree with me. That call was originally called a foul on Paolo. The Orlando Magic reviewed it and overturned it. I'm okay with it being overturned. One, as a fan, I didn't want that game to end with a sudden death free throw from Nehemias Queta. Didn't want that. I would have rather them given the Kings possession up top and had them do the whole possession over again, even if it was less likely that the Kings would win the game. I didn't want to see a game-winning free throw. But also, I thought Paolo, it was a good block. I really did. Looking at it back, hand is part of the ball, I thought it was a good block by Banchero. What I have an issue with is why in the hell did the Orlando Magic get the possession? Like, Jordy also tried to explain it afterward. Basically, the reasoning for it from the officials was that the foul was called when Orlando had possession. The foul was called late. Even though the foul was the dunk or the oop and the contact made above the rim, the whistle was actually blown after the loose ball was collected by Orlando. So I guess by NBA rule, since Orlando had the possession and their challenge overturned the call, overturned the dead ball, it is their ball because they had possession, as if the pause never happened. Except you're challenging the foul when the Kings had possession. Contact is made when the Kings have possession. I'm okay with Sacramento not getting the ball since the call was overturned. The foul never should have taken place, at least after review. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with a jump ball. That's what it should have been. It should have been a jump ball at center court. A jump ball at center court between either Banchero and Keita or the two centers, whoever you want to put in there. That's what it should have been. I don't know why you award the Orlando Magic for getting the challenge right. You take away the foul, don't take away their timeout. I get it. The game's not over. The Kings aren't going to free throws. I get it. I'm okay with that. I don't understand why, in addition to rewarding them by overturning the call, you reward them more by giving them possession and a chance to win the game, which ultimately they would win the game. Why do you do that when you're rewarding them for your late whistle? That doesn't make sense. It makes no sense to me. The whistle should be, I don't think the whistles should matter. When the foul is called should not matter. The play that the foul is called on, that's what matters. And in that moment, the Kings were in possession because the Kings were trying to dunk the ball. And Neemias Queta is trying to dunk the ball. Again, I'm okay with the Kings not getting possession there. It should have been a jump ball, and let that decide how this game ends up. In the end, Orlando gets possession. I do think it's kind of cool, even though the Kings lost, I do think it's kind of cool that Emmanuel Terry, who is part of the Kings Summer League championship team last year, and he really impressed me. I'm a big Emmanuel Terry fan. It was cool to see him get the game winner for Orlando and get that celebration. But I'm not letting that finish and that controversy affect that game that much for me. I had an absolute blast covering and watching that game. I hope fans did too. And in the end, if this was a regular season loss, you best believe I'd be up in flames, as with the rest of the Kings organization and maybe half the NBA, about that decision by NBA officials. But because it's Summer League, because we got the finish that we got, that game never should have gone to overtime or sudden death in the first place. Whatever. I guess I can live with it. Man, I'm almost 19 minutes into this dang thing, and I haven't even done an ad read yet. So really quickly, I do want to thank a couple great sponsors here of the Locked On Kings podcast. The first one being Truebill. Look, this is an app that you absolutely have to have for modern day finances, just because of the amount of subscriptions that there are in the world today. Do you know why free trials renew without your consent? It's a scam, a business scam to get your money without you knowing, or at the very least, they make it very difficult to cancel subscriptions. A lot of companies do, so that it's too much of a hassle to get your $5.99 or however much you're paying a month back. But with the amount of subscriptions today, I know I'm guilty of this. I've forgotten some of the subscriptions that I've had. And the best thing about Truebill is Truebill, by connecting with your bank details, they can manage your subscriptions, find your subscriptions, let you know about the ones you're still paying for, the ones that you didn't know about, and they'll even cancel your subscriptions for you, even those hard to cancel subscriptions. I had a subscription towards a publication that was charging me $15 a month, and I tried to cancel with them. I had to do it over the phone. I was on hold forever. I decided, you know what, this isn't worth it. I let Truebill's concierge handle it. They got it done for me, and they've saved me a lot of money. They saved me $100 a month almost immediately. And what's crazy is they've saved their over 2 million users $100 million already to this point. Go to Truebill.com, start canceling those subscriptions, manage your money better, and make sure you go to Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. It could save you thousands of dollars a year. Locked On Kings is also brought to you by Bet Online. And here in Las Vegas, a phenomenal place to bet on sports with all their sports books. I'm looking around, I'm realizing that honestly, Bet Online does it better. I like Bet Online's interface better. I like their lines a whole hell of a lot better. Plus, Bet Online has a lot more fun future and prop bets than these sports books do. Like fun bets around where you think Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving are going to end up, bets around future Summer League, or rather the Summer League championship, bets around next year's NBA championship, next year's MVPs and awards. They're already available for you to gamble on right now. You can, if you're an NFL fan with the schedules coming out, you can bet on NFL futures galore right now. Plus, they have MLB baseball, and for those of you who love combat sports, MMA, boxing, even golf, which is not combat related at all, but they have it all. That's the point. Go to Bet Online right now. It's the absolute best place to gamble. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite sports and events. Head there, head to the website today, use your mobile device, learn more about the trends and the action at Bet Online, where the game starts. I thought Keon Ellis had a really good game too. I thought Keon Ellis, he showed off a little more of that touch from three-point range. I don't have the box score in front of me, actually, so I don't remember how many threes he finished with. It was at least 3 of them. I thought Keon Ellis played really well. And all things considered, even though there were certain elements about Neemias Queta's game that I'm disappointed with, his lack of physicality for him being that big, sometimes his lack of rebounding, his strength around the rim. Queta leading the Kings with 23 points. I thought he played just a really solid, kind of quietly great game. Like a really, really solid game across the board for Neemias Queta, plus hitting that big 3 before Keegan Murray's big 3. Don't let that moment be overshadowed. Queta stepped out. He was left wide open. They dared him to take that shot, and he hit it in a massive moment. The Kings do not even come close to winning this game without Neemias Queta tonight. So I'm really proud of him as one of the Kings' two-way contracts. Keon Ellis had another great game. He's the other two-way contract. I don't know, again, how much opportunity either of them are going to get with the main roster. We do know because they're two ways they will be spending a decent amount of time with the main roster. I'll just say I've been impressed by both of them. There are certain things that both of them need to work on. And I've been, I think, more impressed overall with Keon Ellis at this point than I've been with Neemias Queta. But I'm okay with what I've seen. I'm really okay with what I've seen, and I still do think that Queta has a lot that the Sacramento Kings could use. Matt Coleman has had a couple decent games and had some good moments. Matt Coleman, in my opinion, should be the starting point guard over Frankie Ferrari. Frankie Ferrari just hasn't really impressed me. His speed is pretty good. His assists, his distribution, he actually should have had a couple of highlight assists that ended up resulting in fouls, like a backdoor cut to Keegan Murray. He was going up for a dunk, and he was fouled. It ended up being a flagrant foul. I think it was against Admiral Schofield, if I'm not mistaken. But Frankie Ferrari's fine. I think we know watching Frankie Ferrari that he's not really going to have much of a chance at being that third point guard for the Kings. I think Matt Coleman does have a chance at being that third point guard. Plus, we've seen Matt Coleman from his time in Stockton with the Stockton Kings. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, maybe that goes to Quinn Cook. Maybe that goes to Matthew Dellavedova. We'll have to wait and see. But I know for my money, if I'm picking any one of those 3 names that I just listed to be that third point guard, I think my money's on Quinn Cook. I like what Quinn Cook has done in his career. I like what he did with the Golden State Warriors. I know he's battling back to get back into the NBA. I think that would not be a bad idea to give him that roster spot. And I don't think in the event, knock on wood, that anything happens to De'Aaron Fox or Davion Mitchell. Of course, Quinn Cook is not up to the standard that both of them are, but we've seen Cook be effective in a very, very prominent, established system like the Golden State Warriors. So, yes, he can be effective for the Sacramento Kings, I believe. So my pick at this point is Quinn Cook. And as we find out more details about this workout and if Dellavedova or Quinn Cook have a chance to get this spot, we'll talk more about that. Plus, I have more content coming for you from Las Vegas here. Tomorrow, the Kings play the Indiana Pacers. I believe I'll have a post-game Locked On Kings pod for that. Plus, I'm trying to get some unique content here. There's so many great names and faces that I saw around the Thomas and Mack Center because of how crazy this game was and the work afterwards. Unfortunately, was not able to talk to any of them. I'm doing my best. I'm going to do my best to get as much exclusive content as I can get here for Locked On Kings. I leave on Monday, but hopefully I can gather enough content for the remainder of next week, or for some interviews for next week, because there are a lot of amazing people from Sacramento media and just from NBA media that are here that I hope to get the opportunity to talk to. But I really appreciate you supporting Locked On Kings. Of course, I'm here because of my job with ABC 10, but ABC 10 is owned by Tegna. Tegna also owns Locked On Kings, and I would never have gotten to the place that I'm at ABC 10 without what Locked On Kings has done for me and without your support of Locked On Kings. Like, the continued growth of this podcast is amazing. For me to be here, I have a lot of privilege, a ton of privilege with what I'm able to do. I've worked my ass off, but to be able to cover the NBA and have the access that I do, I'm very blessed for that. To be here, to travel to Summer League and experience this, to some people might not mean too much. To me, it means the world, and a lot of it is because of you. So thank you so much. And if you're here in Las Vegas, I met some Kings fans before the game. If you're here in Las Vegas, let me know. I would love to meet you either tomorrow or on Monday. And of course, more great Locked On Kings content is coming. If you want to reach out and talk about anything that we talked about today, ask any Kings questions, conversation, whatever it is, reach me on Twitter at MattGeorgeSack. Email me mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, or leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. Really appreciate you. Can't wait to talk to you next time. Until then, my name is Matt George. You have been listening to Locked On Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.